Welcome to Ponchatoula Live, the show where we make it easy for you to connect with the people of Ponchatoula. I'm your host, Parker Layrisson, and today I've got a fantastic guest. This is somebody that people have been waiting and anticipating coming on this show forever because he's a true Ponchatoula local legend. We have a lot of great guests on here, and I enjoy almost every episode, but it's not every week I can say our guest today is truly famous and he has accomplished something incredible that makes not only our whole city proud, but our whole state proud on the national level. And I'm speaking, of course, about former national champion, starting pitcher for the LSU Tigers, Hunter Gomez, a guy I've known my whole life, somebody I'm proud to say I played with once upon a time. Now, given he played much better than I did, but we were friends on the baseball field. We were friends in high school. We worked together in the Key Club doing community service. So it's been a real pleasure to see him grow up and to be the fine man that he is now. So Hunter, with no further ado, welcome to the show. How are you, pal?
Well, I'm good. Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me to come do this. It's one of those things where we always look forward to getting back and reminiscing about old times. We've been friends forever. It seems like, right? We're all getting older, but I sure appreciate you coming and calling me to come do this. It's something that I'll definitely enjoy for sure.
Well, it's something I've been looking forward to because I think the world of you, your parents, your family, your wife, who, has beaten up on me and my firm many times in court. She's a great lawyer. But I wasn't kidding in my intro. You have a great story to tell. I want little kids that are practicing on the ball fields today to understand that it's a possibility to reach the highest achievements in baseball. You've been there, and or anything else that they put their hearts to. And so I'm looking forward. We're going to dig into national championship and what it's like to wear purple and gold and represent the Tigers in Alex Fox Stadium and in Omaha and all that later. But for now, I'd just like to kick things off. Tell us a little about yourself, and then we're going to get into your kind of early childhood and your background.
Well, in today's time, I live in the real world just like everybody else today. I work for Chevron Chemical out of Belle Chase. Yes, that's in Belle Chase. I'm a supervisor in operations, so I have 34 direct reports. In my off time, which I never seem to have any off time, I actually run the Hammond Yankees out of the Hammond Plex with JRT Sportsplex. I coach the 11U AAA/majors team. I spend a lot of time doing that, a lot of time giving back to youth in our community. Most of my kids on our team are from Ponchatoula. That's one of my things I've always wanted to give back. And coming up, right, I always wanted to coach and teach. Coming through college, everything else, that's what I saw myself doing until it was time for me to do, big guy jobs, And, you got to live, right?
Yeah, you got to support your family, and it's a heck of a lot easier supervising people from multi-billion-dollar companies than it is coaching baseball. But I'm proud to see you continuing to do both because I can't imagine how hectic that makes your schedule. But I know that, there's so few people in our community that can teach kids what you can about baseball from a lifetime of playing it, up to the highest levels. So, tell us about what it was like as a kid, because, I think people think of you now. If they know you, they may know you as the coach of the Hammond Yankees, which is such a prominent, baseball organization. But they also probably know about the lore of, playing for Skip Bertman and winning a national championship. But I remember while you were always a great player and an all-star, it wasn't always easy as a kid on the field. It wasn't like you batted 1,000 or struck out every pitcher. And so if you would, just tell us about your childhood, not just baseball, but, what was it like for you growing up here in Ponchatoula?
Well, we moved to Ponchatoula when I was 9, right? So I grew up on a dairy farm. So it's always been one of those things where you had to earn what you had at that point in time. So we moved to Ponchatoula. I was 9 years old. We started playing baseball. That's kind of like my first fondest memories. I remember playing for Ponchatoula Homestead, and that was one of those things.
Coach was? Is it your dad?
God, who was the coach? Yeah, Dad ended up coaching it at some point. Yeah, so far. Well, we actually played at the field behind Kiwanis Park. That was my.
Oh yeah, I remember that field well. Yeah.
So the very first game that I'm playing, and we're 9 years old. My brother-in-law, what used to be my brother-in-law, it was our first baseman, Bryce Viney. He throws the ball across the infield. I'm warming up in pregame on the mound. It hits me in the ankle. That's my first ever baseball experience in Ponchatoula. Takes me out the game. I can't even play because my ankle swole up.
Oh, gosh. Our boy Bryce, I love that guy. Boy, we were chatting it up the other day, and he's a trip, man. He what a great guy. But yeah, he
is really hard work
right out
guy.
the
Does a lot. Does a
mm-hmm.
lot. So then we get into everyday life, right? So I played all sports coming up, and I'm first and foremost, I'm not like this big advocate for travel baseball. I think it takes, you have to do it to compete at a higher level today because kids are so specialized in position, things like that. But it takes a lot. It's taxing. We're every weekend we're 4 or 5 games, and luckily the way that I work my real job, we can only play every other weekend, so that keeps us at a minimum. And burnout's a real thing. People don't get.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because burnout's a real thing, and there's also the biomechanics of sports and the human body. Our pal Philip Bankson that we both grew up with.
Yes.
I remember being surprised the first time he told me he wasn't really an advocate for year-round pure travel baseball because like you, he's a pitcher, and it's like the human shoulder is not designed to be throwing 52 weeks a year.
I can tell you from personal experience, when you get to that end, wherever it may be, when you reach your last one, that's it. There is no more coming back from that, and your body only has so many throws, pitches, or whatever in it. I said, when you get to that, you're done. There is no surgeries or magic pills to make it better or anything else.
Yeah. But it's tricky because, like you say, kids today are so specialized. I mean, we were out with one of your old teammates, Kyle Wolf, who was a great second baseman. I think he started as a freshman and was all district 3 years at PHS. But, our kids are good buddies. They're first graders. And, man, we're at the birthday party Friday night at the bounce house or whatever. And all these dads are sitting around about, which hitting coach you're getting into for what are basically 7-year-olds and 6-year-olds. And it's like, oh, this guy's too booked up and this and that. And it's kind of crazy how early it starts and how intense it is. So what advice do you have for parents now that are navigating that in the early years? Because even great ball players like Kyle, aren't always exactly like he confessed to me, like he probably should have had his kid playing a year earlier than he started. And, these days when you can play at 3 and never stop, is there a perfect path or is it depend on the kid?
I think it's to each its own, and with people today, the first thing I'm going to tell you is you got to get somebody to work with your kid that you can trust, for one. Now, my youngest one, who is just turned 11, we really didn't start till we were 8. So I didn't get to play T-ball and coaches pitch and all that because of COVID, too, for one. We probably would have done that. But, you got to find somebody that you trust. That's the biggest thing. My biggest thing is because I coach so much of it, and I have a guy that works with all my kids, once a week, maybe twice, depending on the summer or whichever else. And I trust him, right? We go way back. We go back all the way to my LSU days. He's friends with Waylon Guidry. I know those guys. So I trust him to teach the basics of it. That's the whole thing. It's got to be something. It's got to be fun for the kids. The kids have to like it, but they also have to be able to listen and learn at the same time, too. But, it's one of those things. I have a number of kids on my team that play multiple sports, and I'm a big proponent of that. I want those kids to do that, right? Because at 9, 10, 11, and even until you get into high school, you don't really know what your kid's going to do. So, yes, you have to be good at certain things to compete at a higher level, but it's all about the development of kids today. So you really got to find people that you trust. And it's become such a money thing today. And not that it's a money grab, but people are trying to make livings off of teaching kids to sport and things like that, to where everybody and their brother has a sports complex or does lessons and does this. I've been around a bunch, okay? When I was at LSU, I did a lot of camps with Coach Beetle Bailey and Coach with Skip and things like that. And that was always their biggest thing is teach it the right way. Don't abuse it. Know what you got out there. Give it to the people. Give them their information. But don't overtax it, right? So if I ever do any lessons, and I really don't do lessons, I do a practice.
You don't have time to with a dad and a job and all the
That is so true, so true. Right. But when I was doing lessons, and they got people that charge X amount of dollars, I really kept it down because it's not about that. It's about the kids' development and the love of the game, right?
Well, and I love how you
we're talking about older times, right? So, and I can tell you where my first love really became with baseball. I've always loved baseball. It's something I remember, from my younger days to where I didn't play coach's pitch. I played straight to kids pitch. If you look at me in here, you can see my nose is crooked, right? First ever at bat I took in Kentwood, I got slugged right in the nose. So that's crooked. 4 broken noses later because of baseball is what it is. But when I was 11, and people in Ponchatoula will 100% remember this, we had the 11, 12-year-old All-Stars, and that was the year that Justin Adams, Corey Burner, those guys went to the World Series. Remember? And they finished second to Texas, right?
Yeah.
I didn't make that team. All right. And for some reason,
that's wild. Like, how could that have happened? But yeah.
It's so funny because, my cousins, JJ and Derek Gill, all of them, JJ was on that team. And
JJ, now known as Jared, now that he's a Yankee, one of my best friends in life. Yeah, great ball players themselves, like their father.
That's exactly right. Kyle Wolf was on those teams. Charlie Landry was on those teams and things like that. I didn't make that team. For some reason, me not making that team lit an absolute fire under me. I told myself at that point in time I would never be second to anything.
Well, that's like your superhero origin story. Because that was such a big deal. Ponchatoula had not done that before. These guys come back, even though they didn't win it all, they're doing, parades and all, because second was as well as we'd ever done. I mean, heck, we never got past Gonzales here regionally.
That's exactly right. Gonzales used to always put it on us.
Yeah, so it was a huge deal.
I actually remember laying on the floor because it wasn't televised back then, right? It was on the radio and listening to the finals of that game.
Oh, wow.
At Texas, and I forget the kid's name. Him and Justin pitched against each other, and they struck out everybody and their brother, right? Because remember that this is two guys that are 6'1", 6'2" from 48 feet throwing the ball 80 miles an hour. Good luck,
I remember it well. I had to bat against Justin many days. I was always on Corey Berner's team with Muddy coaching us. And so that meant I never got to play with Justin until the St. Joe team. And, he threw gas, man.
Oh, did he ever? So, and it's funny you say that because Stephanie Wald is actually one of our coaches. Dylan Hill's coaches.
Yeah, no, Stephanie she could play. And she played with us.
Corey, remember?
Yeah, absolutely. She was on our team. Yeah.
Yes.
Believe it or not, she was our second best pitcher one year. Don't tell your cousin Jared I said that, but he was a little wild, and we would go. You remember how you'd have a year where you'd have, say, the older kids like Phil McCrory.
Yes.
We're in the same grade as Corey and Justin, but a year older by sports terms.
Right.
Like you'd have this year where every other year we'd be great and undefeated. I think, Jeremy Babin would be on the team with us, and then we would have the 2 or 3 pitchers we need, but there'd be some lean years where it was just Corey, who's a great ball player, but a catcher more than a pitcher, and Jared, and those guys didn't always throw strikes, and sometimes we would need Stephanie to come in there and put the ball over the plate.
I 100% remember that.
Man.
That's when we played at JC Park, too,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We had a 180-foot fence with an 8-foot wall. Actually, my 11-year-old year was 4 foot, so anybody and their brother could hit it out. That's what I tell my kids today. We're playing on 230-foot fences. I'm like, we played on a 180-foot fence, and I've hit 2 home runs in my life. One when I was 12 and one my freshman year in college, and that's it. And they're looking at me like, that's a little bitty field. I'm like, the bats are different. I don't know. Maybe I wasn't as good a hitter as we are today.
Yeah.
Coach it better than I played it, maybe. Who knows? But it goes way back into that. But then,
the other thing I remember about those days, there were great pitchers like you and Phil and Justin that could throw heat. And Charlie, you mentioned Charlie Landry. Lord knows he was great too. But y'all could throw strikes. And then there were the Bobby Wolf, Ronnie Corbin. These guys threw harder than anyone, but you didn't know where it was going, and they were terrifying guys.
You couldn't dig in. So there's a funny story of Charlie and that 12-year-old team, right? So he pitches the finals against Cleary in New Orleans and somewhere else. And the reason why I really know this, because I've seen 2 perspectives of it. I played with a guy at UNO that's actually the Mandeville head coach now, Brady Benoit. He was the leadoff hitter for the Cleary team. And I don't remember the score, but I remember Charlie telling me this, and then Brady saying the same thing from a different perspective. So Charlie's dad, Mr. Ralph, who was a great baseball guy, great family to begin with, the best
and a great coach.
Baseball player.
He and Al Wolf coached me one year. They did a great job with Leonard Feckety. That was a good crew, man.
Yeah,
all those guys.
The best baseball athlete out of that whole family was Sandra. The daughter was the best one, which played at Southeastern. She'd kick your butt all over the place.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So Ralph tells Charlie at warm-ups, the first very pitch of the game, and they had this big wooden backstop, throw it as hard as you can up against the backstop. And he, boom, hits it. And Brady tells me this because Brady's the first guy on deck. And this ball hits there and it echoes throughout the stadium and everything else. Lo and behold, Charlie throws a no-hitter because they were scared to death. They didn't want to dig in at the plate.
That was what we might call strategery, right? That's good strategy. Exactly. Let me share a comment that's coming in from a mutual friend of ours, Taylor Anthony, who is both a baseball aficionado and a heck of a lawyer. He says not all of us could hit it out of JC Park, Hunter. And Taylor, I can relate. I batted second, not fourth, like my brother Bree. And while Bree was jacking homers in JC, I was not. So, Hunter, if you only hit one out of there, don't feel bad. That's one more than I did. Taylor, thank you for watching the show. Thank you for commenting. I know you're a big baseball fan. And I want to let anyone else who's watching live know that if you have a comment, if you'd like to say hey to Hunter or ask a question or just pick on me about what a bad baseball player I was once upon a time, feel free to chime in. We are here with Hunter Gomez, currently of the Hammond Yankees. He's a supervisor at Chevron, but we're talking old Ponchatoula baseball days. While we're on the subject of Ponchatoula baseball, we're just now a few weeks into the return of Athletic Park.
Yes.
And, it's such a happy time. I got to watch my first game, last Saturday, the first Saturday game since I came back. And it was just great. And it brought back so many memories of playing on that field. I'll never forget the first time I got to get behind the plate to catch, like the 7th grade or whatever, St. Joe. And, it's just something that sticks with you. And then we see kind of a whole class of PHS kids or Ponchatoula kids not get to play because the hurricane happens and the city's slow to repair it. So, do you have any great Athletic Park thoughts or memories you want to share? I know you did some things there.
This is one, Ponchatoula's Athletic Park, it's very historic. And people say, oh, it's a baseball stadium. It is what it is. Let me explain something to you. We used to play Moss Point, Mississippi every year. And I know this now, again, after the fact, running into people throughout the country. My middle daughter played super travel volleyball for WD Nation out of Slidell. Well, we ended up playing with a girl that they were from Slidell, but her dad was from Moss Point, Mississippi. It's my age. They used to think like it was the World Series and we played them in a doubleheader, a single game Friday, a doubleheader on Saturdays. And we always played them next weekend, right? Strawberry Festival weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So they used to think it was like the World Series because the stadium was so historic and great, the mystique of the canes and things like that. That was one of the biggest things where I realized that Ponchatoula Athletic Park actually meant something. I talked to Wesley since he got elected in there, like, man, when are they going to finish the park? Because that's one of the big things. And then I saw the interview with Tribble the other day, and I like Scott. I know Scott well. Me and him talk. I actually, running to him last week. But, I was talking to Wesley, man, when are they going to finish Athletic Park? I'm so glad that they actually – it's not complete. They still got the roof side. Right. They got some parking stuff to do.
But it's playable. And they got the kids on the field,
Very much playable. It goes back to things to where I remember our junior year, right? So we're probably the best team in the state. Between me and Charlie was like 9-2. I was 10-1. We go down to HL. Well, we had to play at St. Paul's to finish out the district. We ended up losing 2-1. We won the district and whichever else. So our first game is at home against Wallace, right? Charlie throws a one-hitter. And I'll never forget it because the ball he actually get hit, I'm playing second at the time, is one of them little flares between second and shortstop behind second. And I dive and it goes off the end of my glove. So it's not.
Oh, so close, yeah.
But just we played in front of 3,000 people at Athletic Park is what people don't understand, right? We pulled more people than Southeastern did.
Yeah.
Ponchatoula has always been one of the roundabout for baseball. It's been one of the big things here. It's really great for the high school to be back there. And Tribble said in his interview that this class of seniors has never played there.
Right.
With the storm and everything else. So thank God they've got to play a few games there before the season ends. Fortunately, I haven't been there in a while and hadn't seen the record. But, me and Cooper are actually coming from school, my youngest one. We drive by there and watch it, and I tell him certain stories and things like that. Man, I can tell you some stories, but I don't know if we can talk about some of the stuff here that happens.
Some of it's off the record. We got to get back to certainly. But what a historic place, and we had fond memories there. You played deeper and better there than I did, but just to have a small history there, makes me happy. And my grandfather played for the actual Ponchatoula Athletics, the semi-pro team that played there. I mean, those guys were beasts. There were Dufreshes and Duplessises and
people don't realize the people that's actually
Bayhams. These families that would put multiple star players in there. Rocket Reagan, Spike Reagan, all these guys. You just hear about kind of in local lore. And I'm just so glad. And I want to commend you for mentioning Wesley getting it back in shape. And believe it or not, our mayor's watching. He's got a comment here. Hunter, he says you're a great guy. had some great times playing together. And so, Mayor, thank you for chiming in on the show. But, it's a matter of priorities. When he got in there, he realized, and then look, he's the father of a baseball player. And I don't know that Byron ever got to play a game there. Now that I think about it, at his
they
age,
do. We're 2 blocks from it right now. When I came to your facility, yeah, I saw that there were people walking around. I said they must have a game tonight, right?
Yeah, but he may be a guy who perhaps, and I don't know whether Byron ever got to play a game there or not, but I know you had roughly a 4-year period without it. Construction was in disarray when he got in office, and it could have just extended, but he made it a priority. And I want to give a shout out to Jacob Stevens, who's his head of public works, because as I understand it, Wesley, really got with Jacob, and they made it happen, and they had to kind of move heaven and earth to meet the date to get in for that first game. But it's really something to be commended. Another figure here in local sports, Coach Mark Verbois, who also is now running parks out there at Pard. He says that Hunter should join us at PHS tonight for the alumni game honoring old PHS alumni. Game's at 6:30. Mark goes on to say that Hunter's an amazing athlete, always has been. Had the pleasure of seeing you, Hunter, with his dad at the old Alex Box Stadium in the Super Regional game prior to winning that national championship. And you come from an awesome family, and he loves some Robbie Gomez. So do I. Thank you, Hunter, for bringing her up. Let's talk about your amazing mom and dad, because they were ever present when we were kids at the ballpark. And of course, your mom's got such an effervescent, outgoing personality. Everybody knows her. But, what's it like being their kid, and what was childhood like in your house?
My parents are a blessing and a curse at the same time, right? Because we live on 6 acres, and I see them every day. Like I said, it's a blessing and a curse, And,
Right.
And my mom, she really gets it from her parents. It goes back to Buddy and Lo Patterson. They were a staple in Ponchatoula, right there in front of Boney's. And people may remember this. They had the old Gulf station there for years and years and years. Before Highway 22 was 4-lane through Ponchatoula, they had that, and it was a full service station. I grew up in the woods hunting with my grandparents and my dad, and my dad's actually the one that actually took me by the hand and said, okay, if we're going to play baseball, this is how we're going to do it, and taught me a lot of the things that I know. It started me at a younger age. And my mom is one, trust me, you want her on your side.
I do. Well,
whatever happens, you want her on your side.
Amen to that. A natural born advocate, if she never was.
They actually followed my entire career, going from the University of New Orleans in 97 and 98 to LSU. They missed 2 games, my entire career. And it was one of those things that and that's on the road. That's not just at home. Wow. When I got into the minor leagues, I was in Helena, Montana, and it was one of those things where I'm by myself. At that point in time, you kind of look around. And I was married at the time and had my daughter, who was back in Baton Rouge, Hannah.
Wow.
But my parents couldn't be there, and I talked to them every day, about what was going on and whichever else. And even today, look, as younger people, when we always got to spread our wings and kind of fly, right? So that was one of the things that, I get to Baton Rouge, and I'm in the minor leagues for a couple of years. And then I had opportunities to coach here at Southeastern with Canterbury. But even before that, I was in Greenville, Mississippi for a little while doing a couple of things. But you always felt like you needed to come home. You have to have that opportunity to go away to understand what you're actually
to appreciate what you had back home.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You don't realize what you have until you don't have it anymore, right?
Yeah. So let's walk through that journey a little bit, piece by piece. Is there anything else you want to share about high school before I ask you about how you got to UNO, the recruitment process?
This is what I am going to tell you. Okay, I was recruited, all through the Southeast, but I took that upon myself. I started playing travel ball when there wasn't travel ball. I played for the Baton Rouge Stars. I ended up playing for the McDonald's All-Stars, who I pitched against Corey Burner, Kyle Wolf when they played for Bill Hood. After their senior year.
Yeah, guys that are 2 years older than you, I might add.
Yes.
And great ball players here too. College level ball players, yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah, they were in college at that point in time. So, but that's kind of when I'll never forget it. We're at Terra High School, which is, I don't even think it's a school anymore. And I'm playing for the Baton Rouge Stars, and that's where Bainey, which is the hitting coach for University of New Orleans, first saw me. He was there, and I was running the ball in 90-91. As an incoming junior. So that's when my recruiting really kind of took off. I was recruited to Northwestern State. I was really, really close to going to Starkville. Coach Polk was great up there. I took 2.
Super, super rich baseball tradition there.
Yes.
And folks, if you've never been, we are blessed with Alex Box, and of course, me as an LSU law grad, Hunter as an LSU national champion. We're biased. That's the best place on earth.
Right.
But do not sleep on heading your butt to Starkville and checking it out. You might be surprised to see a player from Ponchatoula name one of the locker rooms, Jack Vaughn locker room. You can look at his 3 Super Bowl rings there.
Yep.
That's my godfather. We had a little shrine to him. And plenty of great Ponchatoula people have attended the university. But baseball is kind of all they have up there. Baton Rouge, Alex Box may be the number one thing in town that night, but there's a lot more going on. But up there, that's kind of all they got. So you get recruited up there, that's a heck of a get. Because, Rafael Palmeiro, Will Clark, lots of
guys. It's funny because I actually got to play with Will Clark's son, Jack Clark, too.
Cool.
So that was and he went to Mississippi State. So I was really close to going to Starkville, actually twice. So after my freshman year, I'm 7-1, a freshman honorable mention All-American at the University of New Orleans. That spring, that fall, my pitching coach left. And we had another pitching coach come in, and we really didn't. I think everybody kind of butted heads. We wasn't his recruits. It just didn't work out right. I ended up I was 7-1 as a freshman, like 4-4, 4-3 as a sophomore, something like that. Both years though, I threw 77 innings and threw I think 73 as a sophomore, whichever else. In mid-March. Okay, so this is past already. That spring season, my sophomore year, I just didn't have it. Now, not that I didn't have it, I didn't long to.
Like a dead arm, or was it an injury?
No. My physical ability was there. Things wasn't working out right. I knew I needed to change. And I remember this exact conversation. I called my dad. I said, hey, I don't know what we got to do. He said, but we got to get to Coach Bertman and figure out what I got to do. I said, I can't stay here. There was a change in the organization coming for University of New Orleans. So he immediately called Coach Bertman, talked to Coach Bertman, told him what was going on. Coach Bertman give us some advice, hey, go talk to him now. Because I was on a full ride, man. I was making money at University of New Orleans.
Yeah. So, for folks that don't understand baseball, they don't give a scholarship for every player. What is it, like a dozen or so scholarships?
11.7.
Right.
I think we had 53 kids on the team. So
there's not a lot of money to go around, especially at schools like that,
No. So I went in, told them that I was leaving after the year and they could use my scholarship to recruit and whatever else. So I finished up. But, okay, so this is what happened. We're in Zephyr Stadium. So I went from a starting pitcher as my freshman year to kind of a setup, closer kind of guy, spot start when I needed to. I have 3 complete games in my career, 2 as a freshman. And my first one's at Southeastern. My second one was at Western Kentucky. And in my sophomore year, I threw a complete game at Churchill Stadium against Tulane, right? So,
my alma mater, man. And they were good back then, wasn't it?
They were legit. That's when Graffian was there, Crescent. Those guys could play.
Yeah.
Chad Suter was there at that point in time.
Right.
So I had a lot of good experience, right? I'm lifetime 7-0 against Southeastern.
So when you coming home, you're bringing it. I mean, all these guys, and look, you've got, former teammates there, Jeremy Babin, Charlie Landry, all these great guys.
Exactly
you
right.
came back and brought it. I love it. We've got another comment here from our pal Taylor. We were talking Mississippi State briefly, and he makes a good point. Palmeiro and Will Clark played on the same team.
Yes, they were Thunder and Lightning.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. 85 Thunder and Lightning, probably indisputably the best. Like back-to-back punch. I mean, at the college ranks, it's practically like equivalent to like Ruth and Gehrig. But what people don't remember is they had some great pitching on that team too.
Yes,
Jeff Brantley and Bobby Thigpen. I mean, Bobby Thigpen, I think, had the record for saves in one season at one point. I mean, those are 4 big-time major leaguers. Wow, that's just wild. So, Taylor, thanks for that blast for the past. But back to you, Hunter. So you're having all this success, but you kind of know, and thank goodness your dad has a connection with Coach Bertman. I mean, at that point, Skip Bertman's maybe a 4-time national champion coach? I mean,
let's see. So that's 97. He hasn't won 97 yet. Well, no, he just won 97. So this is 98, right? Okay. So he just won his 4th one, and Coach Bertman recruited me, so he knew me. So we end up into a situation where we're playing LSU, and I'm at UNO now. playing LSU in Zephyr Stadium down there. And in my freshman year, we beat LSU twice. We were very talented. We just were missing something, right? So my sophomore year, we're down there, and I'm in the bullpen. It's late in the game, and the bases are loaded and 2 outs, right? And I'm sitting there. I'm ready to go. I think it's the 8th inning, if I remember correctly. And I'm standing out with Buddy Turnage pitching for University of New Orleans, who's a good kid, could pitch well, big, tall left-hander. I'm ready to go. Trey McClure's at the plate. And this is the year Trey McClure hits like 29 home runs, right?
Yeah.
Should just smash it, right? So we're up by 2, I think, and Trey McClure hits a grand slam into the pool in right field, and I am absolutely livid because I'm in the bullpen. I'm ready to go in baseball.
You're just tearing down the door wanting to play.
Oh. So they walk out, the pitching coach walks out, points me to the mound. I don't even go to the dugout at this point in time. I am so mad I don't even go there because I'm super competitive. I go from the bullpen to the mound, and I'm warming up, and know this now, didn't know it at the time, right? So LSU radars everything. Okay. It's one of the learning process when we got there. So, so here's one of my things of fame. Everybody knows Eddie Furnace, right? One of the stars of LSU through the mid-90s. Yeah.
Big
so
stick.
I faced 4 batters, right? I strike out Simone. I strike out Harris. I get back to McClure, okay? So there's 2 outs. I get McClure 1-2, and I hit him in the kneecap. Whichever. Well, guess who I get to face? Eddie Furnace. Eddie Furnace. And a really good
friend of mine. National Player of the Year that year?
Yes, Golden Spikes Award winner, great guy. First guy I met when I went to LSU was his dad. That's a whole nother story, too.
Okay.
So I go 1-2 to him, and I'm really busting him in. So change-up's away, and I throw him a change-up. He swings over top of it. So I get to strike out Eddie Furnace on 4 pitches.
Oh, wow.
So at that point in time, I was like, I don't care what else I do. That's what I just did, right? Not knowing that Coach Burtman's sitting there, knowing my velos and what's coming in. So he already knew what I could do, see me live against one of the best hitters in the country.
Yeah.
Right? So that was one of my claims to fame. We ended up losing the game, but I struck out the side.
So that's when he saw the eye of the tiger in you, and he's like, this guy's not just some kid I recruited who was, he's got it. The biggest moments, the biggest opponents, he's ready for it.
Exactly right. We're playing in front of 10,000 people too. So
that was such a great tradition. That game at Zephyr Stadium was such a great. I always loved the Tulane LSU game.
I did too.
My law partners and I would go.
The 0-1 Super Regional was one of the best ever.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And I wasn't even there. I was in the minor leagues at that point in time, right? So my good friend of mine, Andy Canizera, who was a shortstop for Tulane on that team, and we've talked about it at length. And talked about what Coach Burtman did at the end of that game. He actually went and spoke to the Tulane team because it's their first trip to the College World Series and kind of give them the LSU spiel on what you can achieve, and it's still baseball. The bases are still 90 foot, the mound's still 60 foot. You still can play the game. Don't let the atmosphere be too much for you. So we get into that. So I transferred to LSU. Well, at the end of that.
So how's that process? If you don't mind, tell us how's that process go down when you're starring and you transfer. How's that go about?
So at that point in time, it's not like it is today where you can just change schools.
Right.
So you had to have a release from the school that you were at. So I had an official release from the University of New Orleans, and I sent it to 3 places. I sent it to Mississippi State. And you had to have a release to that school, to Southeastern, because that's when Greg Martin went to Southeastern, and then I sent one to LSU, not knowing where I was going to go at that point, knowing where I wanted to go. And I told my dad this. I said, look, after we had a conversation, I said, I don't really care. I said, I want to go to LSU. If I sit on the bench the rest of my life, that is fine. I want to go wear purple and gold. I want to learn what I need to learn and be able to teach what I need to teach. So that's kind of how that came about. So I finished up some classes at Summer University of New Orleans, and I go into the fall at LSU. And, man, I am just red hot. I played on a wooden bat team out of – and you'll know this name also, out of Hammond. Mike Kinney put a team together.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yes,
Kinleys are local legends. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's Mary Beth Crevetto's family. They're cousins with the Kinneys. Great family.
So I finished, and I played through the summer with them in the Wooden Bat League, and I tore it up. We get over to Orange, Texas, and I throw a no-hitter in like 10 innings against the New Ulm Firemen, and there's actually a couple of scouts there, and they start like really kind of hounding me a little bit. Whatever. So I get to LSU in that fall, and I am really, really good. one of my really close friends, and I've been in his wedding. We speak, a couple times a month, which I have Kurt Ainsworth, who is now the CEO of Mariucci, right? So I was in his wedding, and he's going to be the ace for that.
And by the way, guys, they're making torpedo bats now. They've always had the best bats, but now they'll make you a torpedo bat too, I see.
Well, there's a little bit more story to that, too. They started that at the back end of the year, and this is all kind of culminated because of the way the Yankees have started here.
Right.
But the Yankees.
Wait, people kind of gloss over that the Yankees started against the Brewers, who give up 10 runs to everybody, it seems like.
Yes, I even did that when I pitched for the Brewers. It was one of those things, right?
I love it.
So I get over there, and I really go through the fall, and I pitched really well. So I'm in the top 7 or 8 pitchers, and it's different. And here's one of the problems that's kind of going on with LSU today. They're so deep, it's really tough to really hone in your pitchers, right? So they're 14, 15 pitchers deep when you should be like 8. So you saw it against Texas 2 weeks ago to where they were in the bullpen kind of guessing. They were running each kid out there. They had 5 or 6 innings, but you're really not sure what they can do. The 2 kids that are really good out the bullpen other than a starting pitcher, of course, is Cowan, the kid from Wolford, who is extremely good. He's got the best change I've ever seen in my life. And then Evans, the true freshman. You see those guys. They have something there. LSU's now waiting for Guidry to get healthy on the back end and help that bullpen up.
I'm glad to hear you mention that because some people don't understand you can have too much of a good thing. You see that a lot in the NBA. Like in the NBA, it's a similar size as the pitching staff. It's a 15-person roster, but if you got 15 good players, you're in trouble because they all want to play all the time. They're all looking over their shoulder.
Right.
If you've got a great 9-player rotation, and then just other guys that maybe cheerlead well or whatnot, you're ironically better off than being 15 deep. And it sounds like the pitching
it's a really good thing if you have a bunch of injuries and things like that, right?
Yeah.
That much, they're not getting their everyday work. Just take this for consideration. So we go into my junior year, and man, out the gate, we start with Texas. We beat Texas that Friday night, and then Saturday, Sunday, Texas puts it on us. Well, I come in this Saturday game. I'm like the 7th pitcher out. And I throw 2 innings and throw really well. Well, Canterbury comes to me, who is our pitching coach. He goes, hey, he really liked what he saw. Okay, whatever. So then we go to the Winn-Dixie Showdown. And this is a God's honest, true story. So we play Friday. We go in and we say it's a double true on Thursday. We play Friday at 1 o'clock. We're playing Southern Miss. And Ainsworth starting. I wake up. Me and Ainsworth are roommates, too, by the way.
Oh, that's cool.
I wake up, and I'm running 102.5-degree fever.
No.
So it's like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. So Ainsworth starts.
It's like a flu bug or something.
Yes. Didn't sleep, sweats. I actually have pictures of this at my parents' house, of course, not at mine, right? Mm-hmm. So Ainsworth pitched 7 innings and strikes out 13. Okay. I literally have a picture of me. I have 2 pair of long sleeves on. I'm sweating, right? And I go out and I strike out 5 out of the 6 batters I face, right? Well, at that point in time.
With 102 fever?
Yes, with 102 fever.
Wow. So that's like Michael Jordan's flu game.
We have the record for strikeouts in the game after that, right?
That's wild.
So I'm fighting this bug all weekend long, right? Mm-hmm. So we play ULL on Saturday and we beat them pretty good. So we come to Sunday, right? And we're playing Ole Miss in the Winn-Dixie Showdown on Sunday. Well, Brian Grace starts, and we get into the 9th inning. It's 3-2. Leadoff guy singles, and the second guy doubles. So it's 3-2, no outs. I'm in the bullpen. So on the other side of that, as I'm warming up, University of New Orleans comes down, and they're standing next to me in the bullpen, and the pitching coach is watching me. My buddy Brady, who played with me, is the coach at Mandeville. And the coach asked him, he goes, man, when did he learn how to throw like that? And Brady looked straight at him and goes, dude, he's always had that. He said, you just never give him the right chance.
Right.
So I go out, guys at second, third, no outs. I strike out the first 2 guys and get the last guy to pop up. That's when I really knew, like, okay, I can do this. I can pitch at this level. I can get these guys out.
Consistently at that point, and even through adversity.
And look, it wasn't like I was super talented. I very much pitched inside of a system. Mm-hmm. Coach Bertram's systems today is the same thing I teach today, and me and him were on the same page. This is what I can also tell you.
Well, let me ask you that, because I want to push back on that a little bit when you say you weren't that talented, because, there's a lot of ways to get outs in baseball. but you're mowing guys down with strikeouts. And I find it hard to believe you're not doing that without elite stuff. So maybe explain it a little more, because when you say you're pitching within a system and maybe not as talented, what do you mean by that? Yeah, you're not 6'5" like Ben, or you're not 6'7" like Ben McDonald, but you're mowing guys down. I mean, you're striking out Eddie Furnace and others. So what do you mean by that?
So I am a very intense individual. So when it comes to sports related, right? I'm very ultra competitive, and that's just was my thing. I'm going to out compete you. I did pitch inside of Coach Berkman's system, and it fit me for what I wanted to do, right? My whole thing is I had so much grit and determination. I wasn't going to give in to the next guy. I was going to show you, and I teach this to my kids today, because the most talented kids never make it. And I'm going to tell you why this is, okay? The most talented kids at every level I've ever been in, collegiately, minor leagues, major league, whatever you want, they don't make it because they don't have to work as hard. That's something that we've kind of lost in society, is that work ethic that comes. This stems back from my grandparents to my parents into me. Don't tell me what you want. Show me what you want to do. And that's how I always was. I had a partial tore ACL. I'm pitching as a junior, at LSU. That's kind of how it is. It's just one of those things. I had a lot of grit and determination. I wouldn't give in to anything. Now, don't get me wrong. Yes, I was talented at certain things, but I was learning still as I was going. I had the experience, the bulldog mentality, you may say, or whatever else. I didn't get into people, right? I didn't throw 95, 96. Now, I did top out at 94 in that Winn-Dixie Showdown, right? Now,
that's gas, man. Wow.
And back then, that was it. In today's time, you see everybody runs out there that's throwing the ball 95 to 100 miles an hour. We had one guy, that could touch.
Velocities
95.
were way lower back then.
And there's some different.
That's tremendous.
How they measured that's a little different than what it used to be when I was there. Our velos have been a little higher too.
I'm grateful, Hunter, that you're sharing that so many of these talented guys washed out, because I'm a believer, whether you're talking sports or careers or really anything, that can be true all over in life. My mentor, who taught me trial advocacy at LSU Law School and later recruited me to return to teach trial advocacy there, a great lawyer named Ed Walters. And he used to tell us that hard work would beat talent 99 times out of 100.
Anytime.
Is that the case in baseball? Because it certainly
is the case in baseball. And that's what I can 100% tell you. When I got into the minor leagues, right, I played with a lot of talented guys that you never seen there. And the guys I played with, I kind of scratched my head. I'm like, I don't even know how that guy got signed, right? Those are the guys that made it because they could work through it. They put the time and effort into it. It was one of those things to where it's just – you want to shake some people sometimes. Go, dude, you are so good and you have the ability. God has blessed you, but then you really don't know what to do with it. And that's everything we do today, right? I do the same thing in my job today. I preach that to my team. I preach it to my daughters, to my wife, even in her job as an attorney. You got to work at it. People aren't going to get it.
And she's the director of litigation at a great law firm, the Bondurant Law Firm. We'll give them a free plug here. They do what they do as well as anyone. And I'm sure those same principles apply in her firm. Lord knows they do in mine. We've got a comment here. Our buddy Mark Verbois wants you to share the jumping off the rubber story. You kind of were pretty famous for this. Of course, y'all played in so many nationally televised games. It was a big story. But tell us about that and how that started.
So honestly, my freshman, sophomore year, I didn't do that. So my junior year, if you go back and look at film, my junior year, it was not as much. My senior year got very, exaggerated, let's say that. So what happened, the difference is when I was at University of New Orleans, we didn't work out very much, right? It was, here's the weight room. If you want to use it, use it. At LSU, we worked out 7 days a week. One of the interesting stories in my parents, I'm in the fall of '98, I'm at LSU, and I hadn't seen my parents in 6 to 8 weeks, something like that. Because they couldn't get over here to see me. So we're actually inter-squatting. It's before the inter-squat. We're taking BP. I'm on the field. And like I said, we lifted every day. And I'm pretty big now, and I actually gained 25 pounds my first semester.
25 pounds of muscle in
25 pounds.
Wow.
So I'll never forget it because I see my parents stand over there. And they look like they lost, right? They're looking around like, I just like, they're just kind of weird, So I'm walking to them, and I can close my eyes and see this, right? I'm walking to them, and my mom's face is like, she is in total shock. Because from The 1st of September to the end of November, I legit put 25 pounds on. But that was because we were in the weight room. We had our, what we're eating. We were healthy. Yeah, it was one of those things. The worst thing in the world that I can tell you is that Saturday morning after pitching on a Friday night in the SEC on the road, and your weight coach is knocking on the door at 6 o'clock in the morning, hollering at you, come on, let's go. We got to go lift weights every day. The only people that didn't run was the starting pitcher on game day.
Yeah.
Everybody else ran. We had a 2-mile course, a 3.5-mile, and a 6.5-mile course. And I get it today. My little team's like, dude, we run so much. I'm like, we will be the best cross-country baseball team in America.
Yeah.
You have to do those things. It keeps you in shape, don't get me wrong, but it also teaches you discipline and what to work through.
And it's about learning what it takes to be great, right?
Yes.
I mean, say you are at one school, hey, good school, nobody's here to knock you, but there's a difference in how you do things at LSU under Skip Burke, win all those rings, and anywhere else. And that's it. It's important for people to know at every level. If you're coaching a kid that's never even going to play high school ball, he needs to know that, because I got to tell you, hard work is, again, the name of the game. I mean, I wasn't first in my law class because I was the smartest kid. Lord knows I wasn't. But I was at that library before anybody else and stayed later and just busted my butt. And
that's much of how I was at the baseball level.
Yeah.
You had to be that way because everybody's talented there.
Yeah.
You had to put the extra work into it.
Sure. Absolutely.
And my thing is I wanted to learn, like I said, as much as I wanted to. So when Coach Turtle Thomas, our hitting coach, would go out and work with the catchers, because me and Cressy were great friends, and still I talk to him to this day. I was on their coattail. I was doing drills with them and stuff, not physically, like learning how to do it, in the cage with them. So I know so much about baseball, it's crazy sometimes.
Very cool.
I watch it and I'm like, that's not how you're supposed to do it, or how I was taught. Let's say that.
Well, let's talk about your shining moment. Let's talk about that 2000 team, the run up to the national championship, and the opportunity that's placed on your shoulders to actually start and pitch the game that y'all win to be the national champions. What's it like to be a national champion? And please share that journey with us, if you don't mind.
Well, it goes back into the fall in front of that. Okay. So I actually got hurt in the fall. Let's go back to the summer in front of that. So I was supposed to go to the Cape and pitch for the Whitecaps. And Coach Bertman calls me, and this is after our super regional loss to Alabama as my junior year. He calls me, goes, hey, come see me before you go. We need to talk about a few things. Like, okay, no problem. So I go see Coach Bertman, who I speak to regularly today. Smartest guy I've ever met. And he's a baseball
That's cool.
It's genius. Some of the stuff that come out of this guy's mouth, you're like, okay, people don't think this.
Well, yeah, and it's proven because he was not just a great baseball coach, but the AD behind turning LSU back into the national powerhouse we are with all these national championships in football.
Exactly right.
The guy could succeed in anything. He could run Nike or Exxon or Texaco or Chevron or anybody.
And if you see the interview with Nick Saban actually credits him for his career in football.
Wow.
What does that say about the man, right?
That's wild.
So we go. So I sit with Bertman, and he tells me, look, I had 38 appearances out of 52 games as a junior. I threw 98 2/3 innings out of the bullpen. He goes, look, he said, stay here, work my camps, help me recruit. He said, you pitched a ton, and it's one of those things where you're not 6'4", 230 pounds. You really got to kind of watch your body and things like that. So I did. So I stayed in the weight room at Steve Train, worked the camps, did a lot of recruiting with him, worked with him, and I got tight is what I mean. I lifted too much. Everything between the chest muscles and the knee, I got a little bit bigger, got a little ambitious or whatever else. So we're going into the fall, and me and Brian Tallett are the 1-2. And, dude, I am absolutely just dealing through everything. And I'll never forget this. So it's a weekend inter-squad system in October, right? It's the first week in October, and it rains on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So we went to 2 innings on Monday. So I pitched my 2 innings, and it was awesome is what the word I would use, right? So we come back that next Friday, and we're running inter-squads again, and it's me and Tallett, the 1-2s, and it's a non-directional day, and I'll never forget this as long as I live. So it's non-directional, and I'm in the bullpen, and I had a routine that I went through in my head and physically, and I got on the rubber after stretching, and Cressy's catching me, and I'm trying to get loose, and I just felt like I couldn't get loose. I was like, man, something just don't feel right. I backed up off the rubber again and started shuffling my feet and really pushing.
Is
So
this
I
a
get to the
particular
game,
part of your body or just in general?
just in my shoulder. It didn't hurt. It wasn't pain. It was just tightness. Let's say that. So I get to the mound. It's a non-directional day, which means it's fastballs and curveballs down the middle. That's it, right? So I strike out two and get a ground ball to short. I'm like, maybe it's just in my head. And I'm walking off the field from the mound to the first base dugout, because in the old box we stayed in the first base dugout, much like I do today, right? And I'll never forget it, because we always had the hitting screen up, the big tunnel, and they put the screen in front of us, so we're velo and everything with velocity, right? And Bill Daly is on an almost dead sprint to me. And I'm in the dugout because it's hot. It's Louisiana in October, right? I'm wiping down because I'm sweating profusely. And he looks at me, and, you know, everybody has a nickname at LSU. Coach Bertman doesn't call anybody by their name. He calls them by their nickname. And my nickname is Gomo, right? So Bill's standing next to me, very intense individual, great guy. And he goes, Gomo, you all right? Yeah, I'm good. I'm not even thinking about it, right? And he turns to me, both shoulders, and looks me in the face and goes, dude, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm all right. So I just feel a little tight. I was like, why? He goes, you're 77, 78 with your fastball, and you're like 70 with your curveball, which is unheard of. And I've been running the ball up there in the low 90s consistently.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. So I'm like, I don't feel right. I feel kind of tight. So they shut me down. I went directly into the trainer's room. We started getting stim and ice, all that good stuff. The next week, I went to pick up a ball, and I thought you had a knife and you were sticking it in the back of my shoulder. This was in October.
Man.
At any point
Is
in
this
time
your
that I
first major arm problem?
yes,
Okay.
ever. So I'm not really sure what to do, right? So we go the entire fall. I would throw fine, but when I would get on that incline on the mound, it was just it was torture. You know, I never forget it. Couldn't never get extended. Couldn't do nothing. It was painful. I had 3 MRIs.
Let's ask. You're doing MRIs. Your trainers are looking at it. They don't know what's going
Dr.
on.
Bankston, I'm best friends with Bankston at this point in time, right? Because he's looking at my son, Dr. Fields. They're like, man, all we see is a little bit of inflammation. I'm like, dude, this crap hurts. So I had 3 quarters.
You're talking about Dr. Mark Fields. I mean, he's like the shoulder guru of Baton Rouge. Like he's the right guy to be looking. Yeah.
Yeah. So me and him were like best friends. It seemed like I saw him way too much, more than I wanted to for sure. So we come back. You know, we have our break for Christmas and New Year's, and we come back January the 3rd, and I start throwing, and I feel okay. You know, I'm like, good. It's kind of gone. Whichever. I haven't done any throwing at all, really. And as soon as I got up on the mound, it was like, man, it hurts. It kept coming back. So they shut me down. And then, this is a great story. So we opened February the 14th, Valentine's Day, against Virginia at the box with a doubleheader on Saturday. So let's go back Wednesday in front of that. Never forget it. It's the alumni game. Russ Johnson.
Oh, yeah. That's our childhood hunting buddy. Yeah.
So Russ Johnson is at the plate. Bo Pettit, who legit throws 92, 93.
Can I quickly interrupt you, Hunter? I just want people to know Russ Johnson, of course, of Denham Springs. He's an LSU legend like Hunter, but there's a Ponchatoula connection people meeting. His grandfather, Bill Johnson, who was my dad's close buddy and mentor, was Ponchatoula High, head basketball coach, assistant football coach. But please proceed. I just want people to know that connection.
So, his grandfather and my grandfather were real good friends too.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
So, so Russ is standing at the plate and Bo's pitching, and it's some explicit words in front of 5,000 people. Like, throw it in here, because he's got a -5 aluminum C-core, and Bo's like, I am not throwing. And at the time, Russ is playing for the Devil Rays, and, you know, he's in the major leagues. And Bo's like, I am not pitching to this guy with this aluminum bat up here. He's going to kill me. So I get loose. I'm in the bullpen. I'm going to throw my first bullpen in like 6 months, right? So I'm standing on top of the rubber. Coach Bertman comes out the dugout. You know, now it's 150 yards from the dugout, just say, to the bullpen in the old box, right? And Cressy's catching me, and he gets to me, and he looks, and he's got these huge, like, catcher's mitts hands, kind of like this, right? You know, he looks like a melted fudgesicle the way he is. He's like a clown. So he's standing in front of me. I'm towing the rubber and looking toward the plate. He's standing right in front of me. He looks at Canterbury and goes, Cano, go to the dugout. And then he goes, Chris, get behind the plate. And he's looking up at me like this. And he goes, go, Mo. See, this is what we're going to do. We're going to blow it out, 100%, max effort. If you're hurt, you're going to have surgery Friday. I'm like, okay. And he goes, if you're not, you're starting on Tuesday. I'm like, okay, we'll figure it out, right? So I go through the bullpen, the whole, you know, waves, fastballs, curves, extras, change, things like that, just 5 ball, and I finally have no pain. And go back to the year before that, I could pitch forever. My third day, I actually had more velocity than I did my first day, just a little bit less movement and stuff like that. I have like a rubber arm. I can throw it every day. So I start on Tuesday against Southeastern at home. At one point in time, I struck out.
So I know that game's going well, hurt or not. I know you're gonna light them up.
My senior year, I pitched against Southeastern twice. Once at the box and one in Hammond. And it was funny. So Anthony Arteaga, our good friend, is on the Southeastern team at that
point. Yeah.
Leading off, for Southeastern. And I struck out 6 in a row. We won. I forget exactly the score was. But even Doug Thompson, who's the radio announcer for the Tigers, he was going at that point in time because he left after 97. He's like, dude, like 6 in a row. I'm like, man, it's against Southeastern. Because I don't care who it's against. He said, you struck out 6 in a row. You did something.
You're dealing. Yeah, that's
So I started pitching once a week, right? So we go to I pitched the next week at Maine State, and I threw 7 innings. We ended up losing that game in extra innings, whatever else. And I pitched this one more time, and we're going to Central Florida. Okay, so we played Tulane at Zephyr Stadium on Wednesday night. So what people don't know, Coach Berkman's very hard, right? He's a very astute person, but he will get into you, right? So we beat Tulane 24-5. Oh yeah!
Oh my gosh! What year was this?
This is 2000.
Okay, so thank God I graduated Tulane in '99. It would have hurt my feelings to know y'all were doing that to us.
So it's bad. It's really bad. But this is how Berkman was. So he pulls us under the grandstands after everybody leaves and commits to dog cussing us, telling us how bad we are, that he's too easy on us, that we have got to get tougher. And Blair Barbier is one of my good friends and plays baseball. He's hard as nails, and he was our captain. And we all look at each other, ooh, we just beat them 24-5. But you have to remember, though, okay, my senior year, we were 6-5 at one point in time at the box, getting booed at home. True story, right?
Wow.
Arizona State came in and swept us, at the box.
Good Lord.
Because we didn't have to win the showdown that year. So we go to Central Florida. We're supposed to open up Central Florida's new stadium. So that next morning, and this is what he tells us, and this is accurate. He goes, I don't care what y'all do. You better have your butt at the stadium at 3 a.m. Okay. Dude, I rolled up he said, if you're not there at 3 a.m., you're off the team. I rolled up there at 2:30. Now, we've been in New Orleans, so we didn't get home until 11:30, midnight. When I rolled up there at 2:30, the lights was on. I went, oh, we in trouble.
You knew you were in trouble.
I have never run so much in all my life. From 3 a.m. to 7 a.m., we ran. It wasn't it was constant.
That's old school. That's like what Pat Riley did to the Lakers in the 80s. I mean, but that's the stuff that worked. That's the stuff Russ Johnson's dad, grandpa, was doing to my dad.
Exactly.
Yeah. Old school.
So that actual morning, if you know anything about 2000, Cedric Harris breaks his hamate bone. That's how Cedric Harris broke his hamate bone. He was doing crab claws at 3 a.m. in the morning on a Thursday before we left to go to UCF. So we go to UCF, right? And Talent had done kind of what I do later in the season. He had pitched a Tuesday against somebody, and it was backing up to Sunday. So Bo Pettit started on Friday night, and Bo pitches 5 innings. I come in the game, and I'm starting to get my little sea legs underneath me, right? And I go 1, 2, 3 in the 6th inning, and I'm feeling it. I'm running the ball up there close to 90, if not throwing a good sinker curveball. And I'm like, this game's over with. This is mine, right? I come off the field. Skip gets up, comes down there, pats me on the butt, and goes, okay, you're done. And I went, excuse me? What? It's exactly how I look, just like that. And he goes, you're done. And I went, okay. Didn't think nothing else. We commit to getting beat. We lose. Then we get destroyed on Saturday.
Now, does the skipper tell you why he's pulling you out of there? Or?
We're gonna get to that.
Okay.
So we win Sunday. Talent pitches. We blew them out pretty good on Sunday. So we get back to Baton Rouge, and Monday morning at 7 a.m. I am sitting at his office just like I am today. So in the old squad room, which was across from the locker room, his office is in the back. So I'm sitting at his desk, and you had to come in from the right side and walk around his desk. So I hear him when he opens the door. Now, this is 7 o'clock in the morning, right? Because I had class I had to go to, right? So I hear him coming. He's got one of them old-style windsuits on, so when you walk into him, so I'm laughing at him already. So he gets to the doorway, and he looks at him, and he goes, ugh. And he goes, he's got a cigar in his mouth. He goes, hold on. give me a minute. And he walks past me, walks around his desk, sits in his desk, and gets in his chair and like falls back, blows this big circle of smoke, and he goes, "Okay, let me have it." And with a few explicit words, it's like, "Skip, what the hell, man? What's going on?" And he looks right at me and he goes, "Go, Mosi, you don't understand." And I didn't at that point in time. I do today. And this is how much in front of everybody this man is, right? He goes, "In order for us to win the national title, these other clowns have got to pitch." He said, "I know you can pitch. I'm not worried about you.
Oh,
I could have left you in there Friday. You could have won. It would have been fine. But to win the national title, we have to have more than you in talent." And I sit back and went, this guy is way ahead of everybody else.
Yeah.
And his exact words were, "Don't worry, your day is coming. April 15th, tax day, is your day." April 15th came, and I threw out I want to say like 32 games out of 36 or some bull crap like that. Ended up 9-1. Honorable mention, All-American, all kind of junk. The end of the year, my arm was hanging. Because again, I'm lucky if I'm 6 foot. With spikes on, I can measure 6 foot.
No, you're more Pedro Martinez than Roger Clemens, right?
Yes, very, very much.
Build-wise, or Greg Maddux, if you prefer.
Oh yeah.
So let's talk, because Hunter, I know you got practice to get to, and we've been here an hour. And it's 5:31, so I want to make sure I don't want to blow it, but I do want our viewers and listeners to get the benefit of understanding what Omaha's like in your journey. As the guy who got us there and started that game that we won, all that. Like, if you can, go into
my journey to Omaha goes back even farther than that. So after my freshman year at UNO, I played in the Northwoods League in Waterloo, Iowa, which is absolutely nothing there. It's nothing but cornfields, right? So my mother-in-law at the time is flying into Omaha, and I had the day off, and I was asked, "Hey, do you want to go with me to pick up my mom?" And I 100% said no. And she looked at me kind of like, "What?" And my exact words were to her, my ex-wife at the time, I said, "I do not want to see Rosenblatt Stadium unless I'm getting off a bus with spikes in my hand."
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
It's funny how it worked out, right? So I'll never forget driving up to Rosenblatt Stadium, because Rosenblatt Stadium's on a big hill, right? And it's one of these big things that you see, and I've grown up watching it. I knew where I was, in 91 when the Tigers won it, in 93, and 96 Warren Morris walk-off, watching, even at other schools, watching, Doug and the other guys win it in 97, and then have an opportunity to win it in 98, which really should have. 98 year changed college baseball forever. And then 99, us not getting there and losing to Alabama, who LSU beat in the 97 national championship team, and then to go there and play historically the teams, so we go through our regular regional, which is we had to beat Kenny Hollaback for Northeast, who's the first round draft pick. Then we get to UCLA, who has Karp and Hinkle, both of those guys a first round draft pick. They also had Chase Utley was their second base, another Cleveland.
Oh, wow.
I struck Chase Utley out 3 times in that Saturday game.
Oh, that's cool, man.
Garrett Atkins played third for him, big leaguers, right? Then we get to Texas. Bo Hale is the first guy we faced for Texas. He's a first round draft pick. Then we place Mark Pryor, where everybody knows Mark Pryor at this point in time, pitching for USC, who takes a no-hitter into the 6th inning, and they're beating us 4-0, and then the wheels come off of this. The farthest ball I have ever seen hit, if you go back and watch video, Brad Hopp, who me and him were close, hits his second home run, and it's out of the stadium. It's over the stadium, grandstands in right field, and he actually stands the bat up on top of the plate. It was unbelievable. But Pryor was a phenomenal guy.
I think, wasn't he a number 1 overall selection?
He was. We beat him 2 years in a row because he was at Vanderbilt and then he transferred to USC.
Oh, wow.
So he pitched at the box in 99. And then I started against Florida State. And Florida State was, not to say whatever, because I was held to face Florida State. Because other than us, who were hitting 341 as a team, they were hitting 340. They were the best hitting team there. And the plan was for me to go through the lineup maybe twice. And I ended up getting into the 6th inning. It really helped our bullpen because Hodges hadn't been taxed enough pitching. And, I got to save against Texas in the first game, but Hodges came in because Saxon started against USC and bridged the gap through 4 innings. And then he comes in and I have the lead when I go out. It's 3-1. Would have been my 10th win, right?
Right.
They tie the game, and then Cressy hits the ball off the wall. We go up 6-3. Hodges shuts them down. Then we go into the national title game. And what a lot of people don't know is I actually got into the bullpen in that game late in the game. So we're facing Justin Young starts the game, who was the 23rd pick of that year's draft. And they're going through 4 innings. And then we have Justin Wayne, who's like the 5th pick of that year. So every team we faced had a first-round draft pick that we're facing, right? So they shut us down. Wally has a good at-bat. We end up going up 2-0. Wally Panev. I spoke to his dad 2 weeks ago. So we have to grind out at bats. And this is how tough mentally we were as a team, right? So we get into the 8th inning. So back up. So the night before that, Jeremy Witten's my roommate, and he wakes up in the middle of the night in like panic. I'm like, Jeremy, what is wrong with you? Jeremy, he's from Lexington, Kentucky. He was a pooch punter on the football team at one point in time.
Yeah.
And he wakes me up and he goes, go, 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 go. He said, I just had a dream. It's like, okay, I have dreams all the time, but I don't ever remember. And he goes, I'm going to hit a home run to win or tie the World Series, the game tomorrow. I'm like, Jeremy, go back to sleep. You're smoking something. So the next day, Barbier fights off like 8 or 9 pitches off of Wayne, who was, if you go back and watch the video, it's like, wow, this kid's really good. And he hits a solo home run to make it 5-3. So Wally walks, right, at that point in time. Cedric kind of hits a little flare out. And Jeremy is up with the tying, he's the tying run with Wally on second, and Jeremy's up there, and he hits a.
Now, at this time, are you thinking at all about his dream, or are you just like, no, of course
not. No, not at all. Man, I'm so far like, dude, just get a hit, right?
Yeah.
He hits a 2-run homer to tie it, and if you watch it when he scores, he comes through everybody, because he's fired up. He's fired up. He pushes me over. I end up on my back. Everybody's walking over me. We're so excited, whichever else, right? We get in the dugout, and I'm talking. It's actually on video if you watch the ESPN view of it. He grabs me by both of the shoulders in the dugout and goes, "Man, I told you I was going to hit a home run to tie with it." So it is one of those things where sports, right? You don't ever know how to come out, and it just works out some ways like that. So,
so cool.
We've tied the game at that point in time. So our closer that year is Waylon Guidry, and Waylon goes to the bullpen because Hodges is still in the game, but Hodges is borrowed time, right? Because he's pitched so much. And Waylon comes back to the dugout, and his arm is blue, right? He has a rib cutting off the circulation into his aorta. So I have to go to the bullpen to go start getting loose. I'm like, dude, how do I do this? Luckily, Terrio singles to start. Mike Fontenot walks, and Cressy hits the game-winning home run single to score Terrio. What's funny about that, if you watch the video, as Terrio is scoring, Fontenot cuts the infield from second to the plate. So if they throw Terrio out, it's a double play because Fontenot's not even close to going to third.
Yeah. Whoa.
Oh man, they have a place up there called Barrett's Barley Corn. It's all LSU stuff, and that's all night. It's got all LSU memorabilia up there, and they always say Omaha wants LSU there. That's exactly right. Because Stanford beat Nebraska in that super regional to get to the College World Series. So everybody in that stadium, 28,000 people, other than the 200 fans they had for Stanford, is hollering for LSU. The old box, I'm very partial to it because of the way it was configured. Everything was straight up and everything was in. It was like a drum. But Rosenblatt Stadium at its peak in that national title game was so loud. Is what people don't understand. It's deafening. You don't hear individuals. You just hear like a constant drone hum into your ears.
So how euphoric is that moment when y'all do finally win it? Like, what's that like? Life of baseball, missing out on the World Series as a kid and being in the real College World Series.
And I actually remember thinking that day is when we win it and stuff. And my college experience is over. My time at LSU, UNO, whatever my culmination was going to be. Because at that point in time, I didn't know what I was going to do next. I remember, this is true too. So in the super regional, I was the first one out for the dog pile. I ended up face down into where the pitcher actually lands and got all cut up and everything else, and had everybody on top of me. So I made a mark there. If I'm ever back in the dog pile, I'm on top. So if you see the video, I'm on top and I'm hugging this guy. It's a guy that jumps the fence from right field. It's a guy from Coons Corner. We're hugging. We're on top of the dog pile. So that's one of the
great.
moments that I really go back and see and watch. But in the actual moment, I can play it back in my head second for second and see it visually.
Yeah.
But I'm good at that anyway. I can go back and tell you pitch counts and things that I've done, and actually close my eyes and deliver the pitch and see what actually happens throughout. All my times at LSU is very vivid for me for some reason. It's just one of those
Yeah,
things.
that's so neat, man. Well, it's a dream come true for you, obviously. And, it was such a proud moment for Ponchatoula, Hunter. I can't tell you how, for so many of us, from, people that you played deep with and to people that barely knew you. We've had so much to cover today. We didn't get into so many other facets to you because you're so much more than just a ball player. Like, for example, Kevin Rayford comments here that you're a great guy and enjoyed playing baseball with you as a kid, but also going to Key Club now. And,
Hey,
we
I
just
still remember Kevin's first home run. It was at Fontainebleau, and it was after we played. God, and it's so funny that comes full circle. So we played Shaw down in the Tournament of Champions, and our first baseman gets kicked out of the game, so he's suspended. Kevin's first ever varsity baseball game. He hits a home run at Fontainebleau.
Hey, just like Will Clark, who we mentioned earlier, first time up, knocking it out. That's cool. But, everybody loves Kevin, and a great guy. He loves baseball as much as anyone. And he was, a big Key Clubber. And I remember you going to conventions with us, serving. The other day, Mr. Danny Williams put on an event for 100 years of Key Club, and he invited a lot of us old presidents back. So I sat with Corey Berner, who you mentioned earlier, and there are all these old photos in an old scrapbook, and you were there in the thick of all of them. But I want to share. Thank you for sharing your time. I know you got to get to your kids to coach them. I'm going to ask you a couple questions, and then you can go.
Sure.
The first is, having gone through all that, highs and lows, from not making the team when you were a kid to winning the national championship, and not just being on the team, but being an integral part, going 9-1 that season. And what lessons did you learn that you want to share with kids? Because you don't get a chance to coach everybody, but for kids or dads that may be listening here, what would you share with them?
The work that you put into anything. We're in society today to where we have so many people who think they're entitled to everything. You're not entitled to anything. And life is hard, is what people need to understand. You have to work for it. They're not going to give you anything, whoever they may be, right? Which that's in jobs, relationships, anything you do. You have got to earn anything you want. And you can do whatever you want to do. That's just it. But you got to set your mind to it, get the right goals, and then work at it. Don't ever expect anybody to hand you anything. That's one thing. And you got to find people you trust in life. And it's very hard in this day and time to find a group of individuals to really trust with anything in your life, your kids, your family, things that you do daily. You know how today is, man. It's such a different world than we grew up.
And that's why when you do find them, you got to appreciate them. And I'm going to share our last comment here from a guy that you and I both trust and love, Marshall Graves. And I hope he plays this interview for his boy. His baby's a giant and playing ball out in California, but he needs to hear those lessons so that he can take it to the next level. And Marshall, thank you for sticking with us to an end, man. We love you. Before we go, Hunter, is there anything else on your mind, on your heart, just anything at all you'd like to share with our viewers and listeners?
It makes me proud to be, a lifelong person in Ponchatoula, right? That's one of the things. It is a small town, but it's not really a small town. I compare Ponchatoula to much like Baton Rouge. It's got the small town feel to it, Baton Rouge does, much like Ponchatoula does. I know everybody here. I know everybody pretty much everywhere, it seems like, and if I don't, people come and talk to me. I'm very approachable. I talk to anybody. I don't meet strangers, stuff like that. But I have a love for Ponchatoula. I have a love for Athletic Park. I like we said, I grew up there, grew up playing there. I have very fond memories in here. 2 weeks from now, the Strawberry Festival is going to be going on, and my sister's going to be across from Paul's Cafe in the white tent selling strawberries. Usually my family's out there.
Yeah, great farm. John Dale's, they have great berries, great farms. Yeah, wonderful.
And I go back so far, when my grandparents had the Gulf Station right there in front of it's just one of those things. I can remember those times when I was a little bitty, like going through there, before it was even 4-lane through Ponchatoula. A lot of people don't remember that. I visit the Feed and Seed constantly. I have like 60 chickens, right? So I'm always seeing this market over there. We talk. I seem to know everybody. I don't have any problem with, but I'm very proud of Ponchatoula. I'm very proud of being from Ponchatoula.
Well, thank you for always claiming us, and you made us proud there on that national stage like we mentioned, but you continue to. You're leading 34 men and women for a multinational, multi-billion-dollar company now. You're coaching kids and inspiring the next generation. You're raising great kids. You're married to a wonderful woman who's an accomplished professional. There's so many layers to you. And I want to tell you, as your childhood friend, I'm proud of you, man. You've done well. Never doubted that you would, but it's always great to see your friends, do well in life. So thank you for sharing your time with us today. To our viewers and listeners, thank you for sticking with us to the end. We'll be back next week. Y'all take care.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Parker, for having me.